Hey everyone, welcome to Facebook Live. I'm Kimberly Holmes. I'm the CEO of Marriage Helper. This is the first time we've done one on our big page, and so we're just getting it started, just letting people roll in. I know it takes a little while for it to build the audience, but again, I'm Kimberly Holmes, and this is Dr. Joe Beam here with me today, and we are in our studio, actually, where we do our podcast is right behind us, so we're squished in a little tight to fit on the
on the screen
with the Facebook Live. But today we're going to be talking about what you can do when you're wanting your spouse to seek marriage help with you, but your spouse just won't do it for whatever reason. We're going to be talking more about what some of those reasons might be, but we want you to be able to type in your questions. If you have some things going on, type them in, like things, share things, let other people know that we're on live. We're going to be answering those questions throughout this time. We're probably going to be on for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, so settle right in. Some of you might be at work, but some of you might be at home, and the video is probably going to save and be on our Facebook page for you to look at later. But until then, we're going to jump in and get started. So Joe, one of the things that people say to us when they come to us is they say, yeah, I want to save my marriage. I want to do all of these things, but I can only do so much myself. And my spouse, my husband, my wife, they won't agree. They won't come. They won't do anything. One of the most typical things that we see when this happens, I'll start with this example, is it's because a spouse wants out of the marriage. So one spouse wants to save it and the other spouse is just done. Mm-hmm. Whether they're done because they're in an affair or they're done because their marriage has been so miserable for so long, they just don't believe that there's any help anymore. What would you say to someone who's in that situation, who's saying, my spouse won't agree to do anything?
Okay, so will we address in a couple of minutes then, what if your spouse thinks there's no problem at all?
Yeah.
We're going to start with the spouse that says, okay, I don't want to save the marriage. Anytime that you want to convince somebody to do something, let me give you a system that, if you can remember, and actually you can use your 5 fingers to remember this. I'm going to give you a brief version of it. Kimberly will actually later give you more. But right now, let me give you a brief version of what to do whenever you're trying to get somebody to agree to something, and particularly if you think they might be hesitant to agree. Now understand, if you want to save your marriage and you're trying to get marriage help, whether that's marriage counseling or coming to our workshop or whatever it might be, that you've always got to understand what is it the other person really wants. Because that's when you're able to persuade them. And the more you're able to yield on the things that maybe you'd like to have but are not core issues, the more able you are to persuade or convince the person to compromise with you. So let me explain the 5 fingers very quickly. Now, these are part of a system that we use for a lot of different things. It's part of what we do, so it's a copyright of ours, actually a copyright of mine. The thumb in the English way of doing things is well, actually in the human way of doing things, is what makes things easy. If we didn't have a thumb, a lot of things would be not too easy. So if you're going to talk to your spouse about getting some kind of marriage help, always pick an environment at a time when your spouse is at ease. Not a time of tension, not a time of arguing, not when there's something else going on, but make sure they're at ease. And then, this is where we're using the 5 fingers, this one is the finger that we explore with. Like, what's in that hole? What's in that box? Explore basically works like this. I'm going to find out what's important to you by asking you questions. And the questions I'm asking are not questions to set you up. Don't you hate it when you go into a store and a salesperson asks you a question that you know is nothing more than setting you up for the sale? And I don't answer those questions, actually. Yeah. Or you walk into a car dealership, for example, and the salesman said, you ready to buy a car today? Which is part of his qualifying to find out if you're a customer that's hot or not. I don't like questions like that, and I'm guessing your spouse doesn't either. So you ask questions that are genuinely designed to find out information you want to know. Like, what are you unhappy about that you can help me understand? What is it that you really want in life that you can help me understand? And anytime they react negatively or start pulling away from you, just back up one step and go back to ease. Let's do whatever it takes to keep the other person at ease. But what you're asking here is you're trying to find out what's important to him or her. Now, again, there's a lot more to explain about that. I'm giving a very, very brief example here. Only do you start explaining what you want whether it's the workshop, which is what we hope you do because of our great success, or whether it's marriage counseling, if you choose to do that, before you start explaining what it is that you're asking the other person to do or what you're offering him or her, make sure it's going to be tied to whatever you've discovered as you've explored. Now, you've been exploring all of your life, so you know a lot of things about him or her already. As long as you've been together, you've been exploring. But now, the things that you find are particularly important to him or her right now. Like, for example, if he were to say, well, I really want a divorce. That's all I want. Okay, if that's what's important to you, then I know when I start explaining what I'm going to explain, I know what's going to be important to explain to you. Or if, well, I want to make sure that even though we divorce, we can co-parent our children well. Okay. So when you start explaining about our workshop, for example, then you would say things like, okay, even if it doesn't save our marriage, we've had many people tell the people at Marriage Helper that it helped their communication so much and understanding of each other so much that it really has genuinely helped them parent their children better together. So that's something you're explaining. If they say, well, I just want a divorce, I'm going to get to that in the next step. And again, there's a lot more to this than what I'm saying right now. And so the fourth one is this. This is engage. That's the finger we get engaged with. Engage means you ask for a commitment. And so in the case of, well, I just want a divorce, and asking for a commitment to go to the workshop, for example, you can offer that if you're willing to do that. For example, you can say, well, okay, I'll give you this in the divorce, or I'll quit fighting the divorce, or whatever it might be. Just make sure that whatever you offer, you're truly willing to give. And say, I'll give that in exchange if you will commit to do this thing with me. For example, just this past weekend, Kimberly, we had a couple. She came up to me at the break and said, I told him I would go ahead and let him have the divorce. I'd sign the papers and go through it if he'd come this weekend. So this is really our last gasp. By the way, in our very last session, he said, I need to go home and save my marriage, work on it, and make things wonderfully.
Awesome.
But we have a lot of couples come where the ones offered that. Or they've come because of the fact that it's, okay, we'll help you with the parenting. Now, once you engage, once you get them to commit, be quiet. Hey, don't buy it back. In other words, once they commit, let it go. Drop it. Don't say anything else about it. No other explanation is needed. If they don't commit to go, then you can back up one step and explain more about what it is that is going to be benefiting them based on what's important to them. And if that's not working, you back one more step up and go, I don't think I'm understanding. I need to ask some more questions. But once they commit, let it go. Now, and this is excel. That's the last finger, excel. You say, what does that mean? It means don't engage in any more arguments. It means don't start any. It means if the other person's irritable or says something nasty or mean, you don't respond in kind. You leave everything as calm as you can until such time as you get to the workshop, for example. So you can explain a lot more about that, and you'll tell them when and how you'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that 5-finger model, we went through it really quick, but it's really important. And also another thing to consider and remember is you might go through all of it and you might do it perfectly and your spouse may still say no. But the thing about the 5-finger model is when you do it right, you do it with respect, you do it where you're not pushy, and you're able to come back later and start all over again in the future, because you might have to ask your spouse multiple times. One no doesn't mean you should give up.
Right.
Instead, keep doing it. And actually, when we're going to go through the 5-finger model a little more, we're actually going to do something called Black Friday Boot Camp. And I am super excited about it. I couldn't be more excited about it. On Black Friday Boot Camp, it's going to be on Black Friday. And if you want to come to the live webinar, you can, or you can get the recordings of it if you want to go and fight the people at the mall and get run over, trampled in stores. That's up to you. But on the Black Friday Boot Camp, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to spend probably over an hour, but at least an hour going through each of those 5 steps. I'm going to be talking about what you should say to your spouse, the words to use, how to say it, when to approach your spouse. By the time you leave that webinar, it's going to be a clear plan for you. Of course, you'll have to modify it to your own needs, to your own situation, but you're not going to have any questions of or hesitations in your mind of being confident going into it. We want you to feel confident going into it.
That's right.
And that's because we're going to do this. That's only one part of what you're going to get with the Black Friday boot camp. But the reason we want to do this for you is because we're on a mission to save marriages.
Right.
And we want your marriage to be one of those that we save. So on this Black Friday boot camp, we're going to teach you, no matter what kind of marriage help you're wanting to get, whether you're wanting to go to a counselor, and we're going to be talking about how to find a good counselor because so many people choose the wrong counselor.
Oh, yeah.
And it ends up being detrimental. We could spend hours, but that's not why you're on this webinar. We might get onto it a little later on the Facebook Live, but we're going to teach you how to do that. We're going to teach you the five finger system model to use, but we're also going to give you a video to give to your spouse who's unsure about seeking marriage help. And it's going to be done from our point of view, from an outsider's perspective, where you're not the one who has to go in being vulnerable doing it. And the reason we're doing it is because a lot of people won't do it. A lot of family members don't have the guts to do it, or they won't do it, or a pastor won't do it. So we're going to do it. Okay. And we're going to say, listen, we know you might not want to save the marriage, or you might not believe anything is wrong, but here's some things that you might want to consider just for your own personal well-being.
That's correct.
We're going to do that for you. You're going to get that in the Black Friday boot camp. And there's also going to be something we've never done before, where we're going to give you access to one of the sessions of our Marriage Helper workshop, which I'm so excited about. It's one of the sessions that, whether the spouse who wants to be there or the spouse who doesn't want to be there, they say that it is one of the sessions that is absolutely foundational in going forward and in choosing to do the right thing in their marriage, or just thinking about the possibility of wanting to work on their marriage. We're going to do that. You can watch it yourself. You can share it with your spouse so that it's going to be helpful. It's a huge problem that happens in marriage. We're going to talk about something called the wall, and we're going to teach you how to break down that wall, and your spouse, whether they want to save the marriage or not, is going to connect with it too. But
what I'm going to make sure I understand.
Yeah.
So that's a separate video. That's not part of the marriage boot camp.
There are 3 separate videos.
Okay.
3 separate videos. One of them is the plan to teach you, no matter what you choose to do or what kind of marriage help you're wanting to get, it's going to teach you how to approach your spouse.
And that one you don't show the spouse.
That one you don't show the spouse. That's only for you.
Right.
And then the other one is the one to show your spouse. And it's the one of, hey, here's some things to consider. And the third one is one of the sessions of our workshop that is absolutely so beneficial. People love it. 3 different videos, and in that webinar for you on Black Friday, I'm going to teach you how to use all 3 of those, what sequence you should use them in, all those things. The Black Friday Boot Camp, you get all of that for $7, which is awesome.
$7.
I'm so excited about it. $7. We're going to let you know how to do that. You can go to your.marriagehelper.com/Black Friday Boot Camp. I don't think I can type while I'm on here, but if someone else wants to kind of type that and
so
put it up for everyone else.
So it's
your.marriagehelper.com/Black Friday Boot Camp. All one word.
Long, big word. Okay.
All one long, big word. And we'll be broadcasting it on our Facebook page too, but I'm just letting you know that's what we're going to do, because we want to set you up for success. All of that for $7. We didn't want money to be an issue. We didn't want cost to be an issue. It's holiday season. You're spending money on your kids. You're spending money on all this other stuff. Majority, or I don't know if it's the most or the majority, but a lot of divorces are filed in January. So we want to go ahead and give you a head start on what you can do to hopefully not have that happen in your marriage.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons that January is the #1 month for divorces being filed. One is some people that want out will actually go through the holidays before they file. Others, things were a little bad and got a lot worse over the holidays and they filed. January is the #1 month of the year for filing divorces.
Yeah.
So we'll help you keep that away. Show you how to get the help. Now, we can't guarantee 100% that it's going to work, but we'll show you that if anything will work, this will.
Absolutely. So one of the things we've talked about so far, if you're just joining in, we've talked about what you can do if your spouse is wanting out of the marriage, but you're wanting to convince your spouse to get marriage help. We've talked about using the 5-finger model for that. So another one...
Actually, we call it the easy model.
The easy model.
Not the 5-finger model, but the easy model. And so you can go back. Will this be on the site later?
Yeah, this is going to stay on the Facebook page.
So people can go back and see the first part of it if they've just joined us.
Yep.
Where I did a very brief explanation of how your fingers, just looking at your fingers, can keep you on track of what to do. Now, on Black Friday, Kimberly's going to give you a much more fleshed out version of that, but it really works.
Yeah, it really does work. But Joe, here's another one I wanted to present to you. So one of the people who's in our Save My Marriage course, I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and his situation is pretty unique in the sense that his wife is very reluctant to believe anything is wrong with her whatsoever. And so
all his problems. Huh?
All his problems. And so years ago, she said, if you work on you, then I'll work on us. Well, he did that. He's been working on him. He said that he's changed a lot. I've been able to see, because he's in our Save My Marriage course, we've been able to see his change over the past year and a couple of months. He has changed a lot. But he's held up his end of the deal, and now she always keeps thinking of reasons not to.
Uh-huh.
So what about that situation?
When you're trying to persuade somebody to do something, and you get an objection, like this woman's objection, well, I'll work on us after you work on you. Very, very often, the first objection you get is not the real objection. It's an excuse. It's when they throw up there to get you off track. And so typically, here's what we would suggest you do with that. In his situation, back when that first happened, for example, if we'd been working with him then, and she said, well, I'm not going to work on us until you work on you. The way to answer that is, I'll be glad to. Now, assuming that I can make that happen, is there any other reason that you won't work on our marriage? And often, if they start answering at all, often that's when you discover what the real objection is. Because we know in their particular situation, it wasn't what she said. You've got to work on you first, because he did that and has done it very well.
Yeah.
So to say, okay, if we can fix that, if we can make that happen, is there any other reason that you would choose not to come? And if the other person says, well, yeah, that's probably now you're going to start getting to the real reason. And maybe even the third reason is the real reason. You say, well, why would I want to know why they don't want to come? So that when you explain, and you go back to the easy model earlier, so you can explain how you can help that. And besides, why spend all your time trying to work on an objection that's not even the real objection? Find out what it really is. Because the person might say, I just like things like they are. I don't want things to be any different than they are. You say, okay, well, at least now I know. That's when in our, as you go back and look and see how it's done again, that's when you start backing up and saying, well, can I ask you some questions? Why do you like it like this? Now, that might sound actually a little bit too threatening, like you're trying to argue. So maybe you do it even simpler than that. Why would you know that I feel miserable? Can you help me understand where you find satisfaction? Because I really need to know how to do this. In other words, don't make it confrontational. Don't make it sound like you're setting up the other person for anything, or like you're about to get into an argument. That's not going to work. Always ask in terms of, help me understand for me. Yeah. Help me understand for me. Help me understand for me. And if they ask you questions back like, well, are you happy with me? Or are you unhappy with me? Try not to answer those in a way that's going to start a fight. What you do is, well, you know I'm unhappy with the marriage, but it's not that I'm unhappy with you. I just think the relationship could be better. And so in those kinds of conversations, you can begin to find out what's really important to that person. And again, when you go back and look at that easy model we gave earlier, it's only when you know what's really important to the other person that you know how to explain what it is that you're asking them to do, and the things that you can point out to get them to commit to do it.
And if you have any questions, if you're listening, you can go ahead and type those. We can see them come up on the screen right here, but we're going to keep talking.
Can you actually see what they've written there?
Yeah. I can see it all.
Well, based on that light that's hitting me from the side, it looks like I'm a ghost anyway.
No, and every so often when people hit like a like thing, you see the little, the thumb go across.
Is that what that is?
It's really fun to watch. Yeah, they're liking it.
Oh, well, cool. Really hey, everybody like this. Okay, I want to see the little thumb go across. That would be cool.
Go across. But until we start getting some questions, if anyone has questions, which we're happy to answer, one of the hearts, loves, look at that.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Good. Thank you.
That's awesome. So, yeah, there's a lot of different situations. It could be that your spouse may not think that there are there's anything wrong at all. If your spouse, maybe your spouse is happy living with things the way that they are right now. Maybe it's the fact that your spouse just refuses to believe anything's wrong. They like keeping the perfect face. They like going about things like everything is fine. But like the system that we talked about at the beginning of this video, it says you want to find out, you want to start by putting yourself in an easy situation. You want to feel, first of all, you want to feel confident in you.
That's right.
If you go into the conversation nervous, it's not going to go well. Even now, sometimes when my husband Rob and I are having a conversation, if I'm apprehensive, if I'm like, I don't know how he's going to react to what I'm about to say, I'll start going in and he's like, just say it. What's going on? The fact that I'm nervous in the beginning of it, whereas if I had just come in and said, hey, here's what I'm thinking, the conversation would have gone completely different, because he starts wondering, what is it? What is she trying to lure me into? So don't do that. Be confident, feel at ease with yourself, and make sure it's a good time. After a fight is not a good time.
Right. Always at ease. Always put the other
Always
person
at ease. Always at ease. That second one is the explore. You want to figure out what's going on with them. The third one is explain.
And sometimes you can explain from your own frame of reference. For example, if your husband or wife were to say to you, well, I'm happy just like it is now, you might respond, don't take them on. There's a thing here that's actually called feel, felt, found. I understand how you feel. In other words, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm actually metaphorically on the same side of the table with you. I understand how you feel. You know, I've known some other people that felt the same way until they found that even though they were satisfied, their spouse wasn't. And that somewhere down the line, that comes back and some kind of a problem. So thank you for having the confidence in me that you think I'll be here forever, and I really intend to be. But you know that when a person is totally unfulfilled, you can't always know what's going to happen next. I'm not threatening you. I'm just asking you, can we make it what it should be to begin with right now so that there is no problem down the road? Feel, felt, found. I understand how you feel. Others felt the same way that I know about until they found. And that's when you go ahead and explain again what it is from your perspective. That I'm asking this for me. And sometimes when you come down to the engage, you can actually ask it this way. I realize you don't think there's a problem, but I'm asking you for me, for my emotional, mental, spiritual health. Will you do this for me? I'm asking you for that, even if you think there's no problem. Now, if you ask a question like that and they say no, don't get angry. Don't fight. You can just say, I'd like to talk about this again at some point, but that hurts. And I just want you to know I'm hurt. Don't fight back.
That's right. We have one question that's come in. Before the question, Jim Porteau, who's on our workshop staff, he gave us a little shout out.
Jim Porteau is an amazingly effective workshop leader. One of my dearest friends on earth. Really good man. I mean,
he's awesome.
Anybody that we have leading our workshop is A1, top drawer. And Jim is that person, along with David and Debbie Matthews. David and Debbie do workshops for us as well. But you can be assured if you come into one of our workshops, the people there are outstanding. And Jim Porteau is one of those.
He absolutely is. Now, Rick, he has a question. He says, have we had any success with marriages where the wife is in a same-sex affair? I feel like this situation probably presents some unique issues. I have seen a few of these as well as my own in the Facebook, and I'm assuming he continues to say the Facebook group.
Yes, we've had those kind of situations, and admittedly, it's more difficult. Anyone who is in a same-gender affair, it's more difficult. And it's actually different than if it's a male in a same-gender affair or a female in a same-gender affair. Those are actually two different dynamics altogether. Have we always had success with every couple that came through where the wife was involved with another woman? The answer is no. The majority of the times, no. But we have seen it. You say, well, why is that so much different? Because typically when a female gets attached emotionally to another female, it is an extremely strong emotional bond. It's not just sex. They may not even be having sex together. They may. But I can think, right now I'm clicking through 2 or 3 whose pictures, whose faces are flashing through my mind right now, that were females in same-gender marriages who are doing great in their marriages with their husbands now. So yes, we've seen it. We know it can happen. A little bit more difficult, without doubt. But it can be done.
Yeah. Bobby says how, and I don't know what specifically he's asking how about. He might be asking how we're able to get through. Oh, he might be, I think he might be asking how it's different if there's a difference, if a male is in a same-sex affair. We are really getting off topic, but...
Okay, so I'll answer very briefly.
Yeah.
Males in a same gender affair tend not to have real strong emotional connections. They can, but it's not as common. It's more often about that whole lifestyle. I've had many of my gay friends over the years ask me, why is it that we can't even be faithful to our same gender partner? To which I always reply, I'm heterosexual. I really can't answer that for you. You need to answer it for me. But men have a lot more difficulty in that and tend to have more partners, whereas women tend to be monogamous. And it tends to be one person with an extremely strong emotional bond. And therefore, if that marriage is going to be saved, the husband has to be able to create, again, an extremely close emotional bond. Of course, that happens in every marriage. It's going to be fixed, but particularly in those.
And going back real quick to the convincing your spouse to seek marriage help, one of the things also to consider, because we're kind of talking about affairs and the things that you're wanting the end result to be. So some of the things we're talking about is like, I don't, if how do you know the affair is going to end, making the affair, do things like that. When you're going to approach your spouse about getting marriage help with you, it could scare them off if you start with a huge ask of them. So something like, I want you to do this with me because I want it to save our marriage, or I want you to do this with me because I want you to end your affair. If you tell them all of those things up front, they're more likely to say, because they want to do what they're doing.
It's in contradiction to what's important to them at the moment.
Right. We're not saying to be manipulative. We're not saying to lie. But think of baby steps here. So you might want to ask, hey, would you want to go to this workshop with me? Because even though you're still in an affair, we have these 3 kids and we've got to be able to co-parent well, to decide things with them together so that they're not affected by this poorly. Let's do this for the kids. That's a small step. Ultimately, your end goal that is you want to save the marriage. But your spouse doesn't necessarily need to know all of that right now.
Right. And again, remember we talked about this step here where you ask the questions, where that you're exploring. That's where you can actually get them to tell you that it's important that you co-parent the children together. Like, okay, I understand you want out. I understand that you're in love with Sally and that you want to leave me. I'm assuming that you really still love our children and want to co-parent well. What have you been thinking about that? In other words, you ask questions where they're actually telling you, yes, it's extremely important to me. And that's when you get the explanation, you explain, well, this workshop can help us do that. It's always what's important to them. Everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me?
That's right. So this is just a little bit, we've been going about 28 minutes now. We're going to go ahead and wrap up, but this isn't all. We are going to give you a ton more of this information. We're going to help you figure out a step-by-step plan. We're going to get you a video for your spouse to watch. We're going to give you a video of one of the sessions of our workshop, which is completely coveted and sought after. People love our workshop. And so all of these things we're going to give to you at the Black Friday Boot Camp on Black Friday, but it's all going to be recorded and emailed to you, so you don't have to be there. You can choose to fight the crowds. I'm going to fight the crowds that morning. No shame. But we are going to give that to you for $7, and I put the link under the video. It's your.marriagehelper.com/Black Friday Boot Camp. We would love to help you and set you up for success going into the holiday season, because the holidays are crazy.
And you decided to do this for $7.
And I decided to do it for $7 because price, we don't want it to be a barrier. We don't want it to be an issue. And you need this information. This is the most requested thing that we get from anyone. It's, yeah, I'm willing to do it, but my spouse isn't. So we're giving you a complete toolkit. I mean, a complete toolkit. You should be able to, we can't guarantee that it's going to make your spouse say yes, but this, if your spouse would say yes, this is going to give you that highest chance possible. It's awesome. I'm so excited.
Good. Very good.
Yeah. Thank you for being on with us, guys. We look forward to doing another one. Go ahead and like the video, share it with friends. Yeah, join us on Black Friday Boot Camp. We look forward to seeing you there. Have a great rest of your day.